Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech, and in this video we will do a full and complete comparison between the Samsung Galaxy Tab S3 versus the Samsung Galaxy Tab S2. Now just to give you a perspective, the Tab S2 was released in September 2015 and the Tab S3 came to light in March 2017. So that means the Tab S3 came out approximately 1.5 years after the Tab S2. So inevitably people are asking questions such as, shall I upgrade from the Tab S2 to the Tab S3, or shall I buy the Tab S3 or the Tab S2, or what's the big difference, and of course the big question, how big of a deal is S Pen now that it comes with the Tab S3? So in this video we will answer all those questions by doing a full spec by spec comparison and end the video with a clear-cut conclusion on exactly what you should do. Let's dive in and start off with the build and design. So looking at these tablets from the front, you can barely make a distinction. They have an almost identical form factor and dimensions. But when you flip them around, some differences become palpable. The Tab S2 has a soft plastic rear construction, while the Tab S3 has been upgraded with a shiny glass panel that adds an increased premium sensation. So while the tablets look almost identical, holding the Tab S3 in your hands certainly feels more fulfilling. However, the one benefit the plastic back panel on the Tab S2 has is that it attracts much less fingerprints than the glass on the Tab S's rear. Additionally, the Tab S2 has a better grip while you hold it and feels more secure in your hands, as opposed to the glass build of the Tab S3 that is more prone to sliding out of your hands and making friends with your floor. Moving forth, if we examine the chassis of these tablets, you will find out the Tab S3 now has the newer USB Type-C port as opposed to the standard micro USB port on the Tab S2. And while the Tab S2 has two speakers on the bottom, the Tab S3 has seen a considerable upgrade with a total of 4 high-fidelity stereo speakers. These speakers were tuned by AKG. You get 2 speakers on the top and 2 at the bottom, and the result of this setup is a richer, deeper, and louder sound experience. And finally, if you look at the side of the Tab S3, you will see a new smart connector designed specifically for a keyboard attachment that you can purchase separately. The advantage is that this keyboard requires no charging or pairing. You just plug and it works. The Tab S2 would need a Bluetooth keyboard that both requires battery and pairing. So already we can see a few improvements that give the Tab S3 a good bit of edge over the Tab S2. You have the updated USB port, 4 stereo speakers, keyboard connector, and an upgraded build quality. Now let's move on to the processor, memory, and storage options. The Tab S2 comes either with a Snapdragon 635 processor or an Exynos 5433 processor, sports 3 GB of RAM, and can be acquired with 32 GB of storage. The Tab S3 has a faster and newer processor, a Snapdragon 820 CPU, 4 GB of RAM, and 32 GB of storage. Both tablets allow for expandable storage via the micro SD expansion slot. So you can add up to 256 gigabytes of extra storage to either one of these tablets via a micro SD card. So that's fantastic. Clearly the Tab S3 has upgraded internals and will perform faster than the Tab S2. We will run a processor and memory benchmark towards the end of this video to see the difference in power. For now, let's move on to the dimensions and weight. The Tab S2 measures 237.3mm in height, 169mm wide, and 5.6mm thick. It only weighs 389 grams. The Tab S3 measures 237.3mm in height, 169mm wide, and 6mm thick, and it only weighs 429 grams. So it appears that the Tab S2 is slightly thinner and lighter than the S3, but in all honesty, both tablets are featherweight and this category is not that important. Bottom line is that portability is not an issue. So let's move on to the display resolution and quality. Now both tablets actually have the exact screen size of 9.7 inches with the exact same resolution of 1536 by 2048, which brings the screen pixels per inches to 264. Without a doubt, the Tab S3 has slight improvements in its Super AMOLED screen, but the differences aren't enough to make me consider the Tab S3 over the Tab S2 as far as display is concerned. Whether you're reading a book, enjoying a photo, watching a movie, you will get crisp and clear quality from both tablets with deep and rich colors, thanks to the Super AMOLED technology behind both products. Now, where the Tab S3 pulls ahead is that it is HDR enabled, so it is fully capable of displaying HDR movies, which give you a much more rich and vivid image quality than a non-HDR display. However, the problem is that there is so little HDR content available for the Tab S3 that this feature will rarely be of use. As of now, it's almost useless. For everything else other than the rare option to enjoy HDR content, both of these screens are equally fantastic for reading, watching regular high-definition videos, browsing, gaming, or viewing photos. They are crisp, vivid, bright, and sharp displays, so not a big category to worry about. Let's move on to the software. The Tab S2 runs Android 6 Marshmallow, while the Tab S3 runs Android 7 Nougat. And although both tablets are quite feature-rich and have similar settings at heart, the Tab S3 has a more refined interface and a smoother running system. Both tablets allow for great personalization via customizable home screens and live widgets, so you can really make these tablets fit your own sense of style. That's simply a signature feature of any Android device. Now, so far, even though the Tab S3 has a newer version of Android, I would still tell you that it's not a big deal since both tablets function virtually the same. Additionally, depending on when you are watching this video, the Tab S2 might actually get updated to Android 7 Nougat itself. But, and there's a big but, the moment I bring in the S Pen into the scene, the Tab S3 takes a major leap forward. At once, it becomes a tablet capable of realistic note-taking, sketching, and drawing capabilities. It's important to understand that S Pen isn't just any stylus. It offers true-to-life pressure and angle sensitivity, allowing you, if you so desire, to create an artistic masterpiece right on your tablet. That's simply how accurate this S Pen is when it comes to sketching and drawing. On top of that, the S Pen adds a new suite of software functions to your tablet. Tap the button on the pen, it brings up the Air Command menu, which has a bunch of useful features, and you can also add app shortcuts right inside the Air Command menu. So clearly the Tab S3 is distinguishably more useful than the Tab S2. The S Pen at once makes this a great tablet for students who like to take notes on their tablets, artists that want to create, and even everyday people who can use the tablet as a diary and such. The best part of all, the S Pen comes free with the Tab S3. This is certainly a category that should play the biggest part in making a decision on which tablet is better for you. So if you do not need the functionality of the S Pen, you might as well be content with the Tab S2. But let's continue looking at a few other things, and then we will move on to draw our final conclusion. Let's talk about the camera. So the camera on the Tab S2 is 8 megapixels on the rear and 2.1 megapixels on the front, and it's really a lackluster camera. The Tab S3 has been upgraded. We have a 12 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel front camera. The Tab S3 clearly has the superior camera and is also able to record in 4K at 30 frames per second as well as slow motion videos. S2 cannot record in 4K or record slow motion videos. Now, I have never heard of someone making a tablet buying decision based on its camera capabilities, but if this is something important to you, the Tab S3 has a much better camera than the Tab S2. Just keep that in mind. So let's move on to the fingerprint sensor and battery life. Now, both tablets have top-notch fingerprint sensors that work flawlessly 99% of the time, so there are no complaints there. They're fast and they're accurate. As for battery life, both tablets claim to yield approximately 10 hours of battery life with medium use, which is a healthy combination of several different activities. In my tests, the Tab S3 pulls slightly ahead due to the newer Android 7 operating system, which was specifically optimized for saving and extending battery life. So expect to receive a little bit extra juice from the Tab S3. So let's move on to the pricing. Now, pricing is a little bit tricky. The Tab S3 is $599 for the 32GB model, available in silver and black. The Tab S2 is listed with various different prices ranging from $350 to $500, available in black, gold, and white. I can guarantee you that the Tab S2 will be on sale on and off, so if you are smart and keep an eye out for deals, it can possibly be acquired for around $350 or even less, especially as time goes by. So certainly the Tab S2 is going to be the cheaper tablet. And now let's do a benchmark between these two tablets and see the difference in power. So we're going to be running Geekbench 4 on both of these tablets, and of course I made sure nothing was running in the background. So let's fast forward to the end and see what kind of scores do we get on each one of these tablets. And there we have it, both in the single core and multi-core score, the Tab S2 is quite ahead, which was to be expected because it has a new Snapdragon 821 processor, but I simply wanted to actually show it to you guys. Alright, let's move on. And now it is time for a conclusion. So which one is the better tablet? Now let's list some noteworthy improvements on the Tab S3 over the Tab S2 and then comment to see if it's worth an upgrade. So here's the list. Number 1, S3 has upgraded build quality with a rear glass panel. Number 2, S3 has been updated with a USB Type-C port, 4 high-quality stereo speakers, and a dedicated keyboard connector. Number 3, S3 has a faster processor and more memory, so it certainly sees a performance boost. Number 4, S3 has an improved camera and can record 4K videos. Number 5, one of the most important points, S3 has the S Pen, which allows the user to write, sketch, and draw as if you were using a pen, pencil, and paper. Number 6, S Pen also adds additional software functions. So it is clear that the Tab S3 is superior. But what if you need a tablet just for the basics? What if all you want is to read newspapers or ebooks, watch movies, listen to music, use some apps, browse the web, go nuts on your Facebook page and such? Then, in all honesty, you will find that the Tab S2 is just as capable in doing all these things without a hitch. It's also going to be lower in price, so you will save a lot of money and still get a great tablet with surprisingly brisk performance. But if you want the capabilities of the S Pen, if the S Pen makes your mouth water, then the Tab S3 is the way to go. I suggest you put special emphasis on the S Pen when making a choice between buying the 2 or upgrading from the S2 to S3. Really, if you do not need the S Pen, the Tab S2 is still quite a capable machine with plenty of features, including a superb display. Let me put this in another way. If the Tab S3 did not have the S Pen, but still had all the other improvements I mentioned in this video, I might have told you that you don't even need to upgrade, because Tab S2 is still a highly relevant tablet today despite it being from 2015. But the S Pen on the Tab S3, if needed, certainly makes a big difference. I think you get the point. Thank you for watching this video, and make sure to subscribe to Saki Tech and give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to stay tuned, and you have a fantastic day.